alongside Mr. JD Walker, Mr. Obi Spencer back in the fold again. Because what? It's Monday night. And this is the Sports Den on Zingo TV, channel 249, 250. Kindly make sure to download the Zingo TV app on the app stores of iOS and Android. When you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. Both apps are free. And lastly, to get through it, Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. Obi, how the F are you, man? Welcome back.
Having me. I know you didn't move things around. Grateful you did. New job. You know, our loyal listeners knows have made me had to move away from filming live on Tuesdays, but we're back in the saddle and couldn't be happier.
And you, sir, and we're leading with this because you know what? Like I said, welcome back to the fold. You are hardcore Fly Eagle Fly fan, and your team, oh my God, is the only team left in the NFL. Only took 4 weeks, but the only team in the NFL left with an undefeated record.
It is fantastic. It was great. And this weekend, I got to go watch the game with a group of Eagles fans, and we sat there scared. This is a team, the Eagles have gone out and just steamrolled everyone for the first 3 weeks. There was no question what was happening. You didn't have to worry, can Hurts bring you back? Because it didn't matter. He'd taken the lead early. And here we were down 14-0 at the end during the first quarter. Teams have been 1-21 in the NFL for the last 3 or 4 years at that record, and the Eagles just put the brakes on defense and got the offense rolling. The craziest thing to me was I was scared on Hurts' touchdown. So if anyone didn't see the play, he went in head-to-head collision as a running play, so it's not a flag on the defense. If anything, it was leading with the crowd on offense. And in my humble opinion, he went out on his way down. If this was a UFC, he would have lost. That's my humble opinion. I mean, he popped right back up afterwards, had a moment of glaze in his eyes, and I guess they didn't put him through protocol. But to me, it looked like he went out. And I was scared, which is amazing because heading into this season, that was such a huge question for me. Can this guy get it done? But giving him A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith being who he is, Goddard being who he is, Sanders now goes 130 yards, his career high. The offense is rolling, and Davis is makes the rest of the NFL look like a man-child. He has a shot, knock wood, at being your next Aaron Donald. Just a monster defensive lineman who wreaks havoc both against pass plays and run plays. So, yeah, as an Eagle fan, am I excited? Yes. Am I a little scared because I know where we're going later with this conversation? Yeah. I mean, the Cowboys only have one loss and Dak isn't playing, and the Giants are finding ways to win, which is just nuts.
Ugly, but we're not going to say it's pretty on that, but
no, wins are wins, and Barkley's playing like he's a rookie again or second-year player. So,
about time.
They're not running away with this. And as anyone whose name is JD or Obi knows, you better put that team away early because Atlanta's right behind, right? So it's I'm excited, but boy, unless we can get a stranglehold on some of those other teams or slow them down, I'm not sure this isn't going to go to the end.
Good.
This was a fantastic showing by the Eagles, especially going down early and coming back, as you said. I know early on in the season you were concerned about the defense, but I think those concerns have definitely resolved themselves so far. While the NFC East absolutely is looking better than we thought so far, it's still early. I'm still waiting for the Cowboys to crash and burn. I mean, Washington is still Washington, so there's
new name, same team, basically.
Doesn't matter whatever you want to call them. They're still the dumpster fire in DC. So
the commode.
That's
I know.
Yeah. So everybody needs a punching bag, in their division. I'm used to it being my team in the AFC East.
I'm used to being my state.
Yeah. So at least the Eagles, so far so good, and also life seems, since I live in the Philly area myself, it's people seem to be slightly nicer when the Eagles are good. Nicer. But it's good to see. I am very impressed with how Hurts has played so far, most of all. Last year, it was like Hurts was playing not to lose games. This year, Hurts is winning games. And for him to take that step, and all offseason, that was all anybody was talking about around here was, will Hurts take that next step, or was it just a fluke and he'll crash and burn? So far, Hurts has absolutely proven he's for real. We will see if they keep this up.
Very quietly. What's funny about this is very, very quietly, the Eagles, not only do they have the 4-0 record we just talked about, but they also have, as it turns out, actually the second most points in the NFC right now. Detroit Lions actually have 140 points. Believe it or not, they're blowing everybody away offensively, but their defense is just straight terrible.
Yeah.
But in spite of that, I mean, the Eagles very, very quietly at 115 points across 4 games here. That's, like I said, that's an explosive, exciting offense. If that defense can maintain the hold that they've been doing, this is a team that could challenge for the NFC championship run. Can they make the Super Bowl? Maybe, maybe not. They're still a young team. There's some concerns on that side of it. But I think this is a team that actually could have a lot of excitement and a lot of energy going down the stretch. And like you said, this may go right down to the very end here, where this is not going to be some division that's going to be locked up by week 12, 13, or 14. This could be something with, the Giants, granted, but I'm going to say also the Cowboys. Don't count that team out because they are experienced with and without Dak. I think all 3 teams could make this very interesting, even by week 15. And I think there may be some question marks about which team is going to take that division. But again, I stick to what I believe. I believe the Eagles will take that division. But you know what? It's about time for you guys. It really is.
I was going to say, what really gives me hope for another Super Bowl run is Tom's looking old and his receivers are looking as old as he is right now. They can't get on the field. And then Green Bay's receivers look like rookies. They all look like the kinds of guys who haven't played with that quarterback. It's really quite sad to watch. So those top 2 teams, the teams that really scared me, are not showing up. My biggest fear is that OBJ ends up back in LA. That particularly scares me. That they decide wisely to keep him, and he has the second half of the season like he had last year, which was phenomenal. And an injury away from a Super Bowl MVP he was. So it's the Super Bowl shot feels legit at this point. Because other teams don't seem to be up to it, and the Eagles are. But we have, not 16, 17, 13 more games to go.
13 games
so there's
to go,
a lot. There's a lot of maturing that can happen on these other teams, and I'm sure Viking fans are talking exactly like I'm talking right now. Right? They're feeling exactly the same way as an Eagles fan is. So there's that to keep in mind as well.
I would have greater faith in the Eagles than I would the Vikings. Granted, the Vikings did beat Green Bay. Give them a lot of credit on that. And ironically hold the first place lead in that division. But the Vikings are just an iffy team. If you basically put a gun to my head and said which of these 2 teams is going to be more likely to go into the playoffs and go further in the playoffs, I would have to go the Eagles on this one. I think that is a ready team. I think that's a strong team. They don't have to, I don't believe that they will beat Aaron Rodgers a second time. This is not, I don't think, the same Aaron Rodgers. This is not the same Tom Brady. You talked about Tom Brady. His QB rating right now is 97.7, I think, which is good for about 10th overall in the NFL. But these guys are veterans. They've had success. They know when to turn the Jets on and when not to. So a lot of people are saying they need to retire. I'm not going to say that just yet. I think they've still got a little more gas in the tank. They're just preserving for when they need to. But again, Jalen Hurts, you got to give that kid a lot of credit. There's a lot to be said about what that team can do and what he can do specifically. And that NFC East has suddenly gotten very, very exciting because it's like all the last few years that we've had have been crap.
Yeah. Another thing worth noting is that since the Eagles had their run of multiple NFC championship games in the early 2000s, no team has won this division twice in a row since I think around 2004. So the last 17, 18 seasons, it's been a new team every year. So with Dallas winning it last year, it's the Eagles' turn now. And I thought that even before the season started, except I was expecting, like everybody else, that it would just be whoever limps forward to 10-7 would win the division. But the Eagles and the other teams have proven that they are legit. I mean, I'm not sold on Dallas yet, but and the Giants have had an easier schedule, but the Eagles are for real. We'll see. We have the Eagles playing at Arizona next week, and then Dallas at home on Sunday Night Football 2 weeks from now. So
and keep in mind also, in this case, when they play against Arizona, they're going to be playing against Zach Ertz. He's going to play with a chip on his shoulder for that game.
I think it's the exact opposite on Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz wanted out, and the Eagles did everything they could to get him out to a place he wanted to go. That was a incredibly amicable cup. The Eagles fans still loved him. He left with one of those great thank you notes. It might be hype, but not just terminology is all.
All right,
Ertz and the Eagles parted ways on good terms. So as far as I know, there's no bad blood there. And it was a case where Goddard had clearly passed him, and Ertz needed to. It was best for both sides to part ways, and the Eagles did right by him, sending him to Arizona where he wanted to go.
I still think there's going to be a lot of emotion involved here too.
Yes, emotion for sure.
He played with for years, so you want to put the best foot forward. Like you said, it was about as amicable a divorce as you could have there, but still, there's going to be emotions involved. I would not be surprised if he puts up stellar numbers.
Yeah, I was arguing semantics of the term chip more than emotions. I agree. He's going to be bringing something special to the table. The other thing the Eagles have going for them, which is a new thing I've started saying around certain teams in the NFL, the Eagles have it. I think Scott, as a guy who always fears high contracts, you would agree with me on this, is they have a young underpaid quarterback. And when you have a young underpaid quarterback, it means you get to pay other players. And right now the Eagles are able to do that. So that's a nice little thing they have going for them until, of course, Hurts gets his money, which if he continues to play the way he's playing this year, he will be due.
And then the salary cap becomes a problem, which in this case, we'll talk about Arizona, and the massive, massive contract that Murray got. And again, you pigeonhole yourself a little bit with something like that. That's why it was such a big deal. If you remember back in the late 90s, John Elway restructured his contract for in his final year for a bare minimum $200,000. So the team could actually be able to re-sign all the players that they had to give him a chance for one more Super Bowl. After already having won one, what happened? They won another Super Bowl. So he won 2 Super Bowls and then retired because he restructured his deal. I don't know if players do that. I mean, Tom Brady has been known to do stuff like that. And I know very creative, and I know Brandon is far more familiar with these logistics of that contract than I am.
Brady took far below market value for years, which is how the Patriots were able to maintain the dynasty that they had. And especially with all of these big quarterbacks in the NFL, they take up most of the salary cap, and then they proceed to whine about how they have no weapons. That's exactly what Wilson did in Seattle. Rodgers has been doing it in Green Bay for years. Flacco in Baltimore, although he didn't, to his credit, he didn't complain about it. But the facts on the field after Flacco got his extension, he wasn't very good. And so yes, the rookie contract window is as mediocre quarterbacks get ridiculous extensions and the price keeps going up. It is absolutely the biggest asset you can have. And if you don't have one, it's easier to just let him go and start over, since it looks like the Jets did that. The Giants declined to pick up Daniel Jones's option. We will see what happens over the course of the year. Although if Jones is worthy of an extension, it means that the Giants are probably in playoff position if they do that. So either way, it works out for the Giants.
And they could always franchise tag him if they have to. But if you saw my reaction as soon as you said Russell Wilson, you saw me like squirming here as I was dying to say something. Russell Wilson so far has a 91.1 QB rating, which is good for 15th in the league. The guy that replaced him in Seattle, Geno Smith, 3rd overall with 108.
Yeah,
I was with.
Seahawks
Yeah,
look like
I love it.
geniuses.
I do. I can't help it.
I stopped. I stopped over yesterday on my way home from somewhere in North Jersey. Yesterday, I stopped over at occasional contributor Sammy D's house, and we were watching the end of the Jets game. And we were joking, which is more surprising, the Jets pulling out that win in Pittsburgh or Geno Smith scoring 48 points?
I would go Jets.
I feel like we've seen. Yeah, I feel like we've said this before. Geno Smith is a guy who never fully got his opportunity, and him and Bridgewater are these two guys who just never fully got their chance. And Bridgewater's going to get a few games now, and Geno Smith is named the starter from the beginning of the season. So we will see where that all leads.
I disagree with that. Geno absolutely had a chance with the Jets. He just stunk. He was okay filling in his rookie year, but he was set. Like most Jets quarterbacks, he really didn't have much of a chance of success.
But your Jets are 2-2. You got to give yourself that.
The Jets are 2-2.
The Jets are 2-2. And Wilson surprised me with how well he played yesterday, coming off of injury. He looked like a veteran yesterday in that fourth quarter. And we watched some of the post-game stuff. He's also you can tell he's not a rookie anymore. Also, mentally, he's handling the press better. He was, crediting his teammates. It's not all about him. He's not, a cocky kid as much anymore. I mean, he still is a kid by comparison, but he's but it was only one game. It was only one quarter, really, but it definitely looked promising. As my mantra with the Jets is just like Morgan Freeman's character said in Shawshank Redemption, hope is a dangerous thing. It could drive a man insane. So I always temper my expectations when it comes to the Jets, especially regarding quarterbacks.
Well, it was funny because yesterday in the chat that we had, Brandon had some words that I can't say right here about his contempt for his team right there when they were down 10-0. So, yep. Or do you have whatever game of 10 points, whatever it was. So yeah, he was quite verbal on that. Sadly, he's not here right now. He's handling a personal issue, but I would have loved to hear what he had to say on that one.
Yeah, that's I share those sentiments because I was, as I was driving down the turnpike, listening to the game on the radio. Also, regardless of the outcome of that game, Connor McDermott needs to be cut. He should not be on for him to make as many mistakes at right tackle as he did, with the fill-in after the Mitchell injury. The Jets' offensive line situation is somewhere between Oregon Trail and the Black Knight from Monty Python. Just a flesh wound, and Vera Tucker, their first round pick left guard from last year, was filling in at left tackle for the game, and he played better than any of the other left tackles have this season for the Jets. So, which was absolutely phenomenal. But they had so many dumb penalties. It was impressive what they did, but they were still the Jets, and they were trying their hardest to blow that game for a while. And the line play is comical at this point. But McDermott might be one of the worst offensive linemen I've ever seen. And even though they did make it through, shouldn't even be on an NFL roster. He'll get Wilson killed.
I was watching the Eagles game, like I said, with a group of people, and one of the guys there had placed a beginning of the season over/under on the Steelers winning 7.5 games. They got the surprise win against Cincinnati. The Jets was one of the games he had marked off as a win for the Steelers. So watching him agonize at the end of the game, because that's the game they switched to, was quite fun from both a Jets as my AFC Goomba team there and watching him squirm. So, although I did not see everything which you speak, it was good just to see the final result.
Yeah, like you said, like I said before with the Giants, I mean, an ugly win is still a win just the same. And you're 2-2. You know, your defense, I'm a little concerned about. You're third worst right now in the AFC when it comes to points being given up, and you're not that strong on offense. But I think it's a growth thing. You know, you could pull out 7 wins this season.
It's also a coaching issue with the Jets on defense in particular. Ulbrich, the defensive coordinator, is clueless. You have, then you have Quinnen Williams, who is the best player on that defense, but because he's has to overcompensate and run all over the field, he's getting tired, so he's not able to stay on the field for the percentage of snaps that he should be because he's tired. Especially the defensive ends are solid, but he's really the only defensive tackle that they have. You know, and when he's off the field, the backups are terrible. Linebackers are solid. Corners are great. Sauce Gardner has been fantastic so far as a rookie. Safeties are complete garbage. So the Jets still have a lot of holes on defense they need to work on, and the coaching scheme doesn't quite match the personnel they have. If they can figure that out over the course of the season, then there might be some progress. But so far, it is still a work in progress for sure.
Yeah, but again, it's a multi-year plan here, and you got hope. I don't blame you. Listen, you got something to be excited about. You know, this is not a team that's going to go 3-14 this year. You know, 7 wins I think is possible, maybe even 8. You know,
we will see
what's happening with Miami right now.
Eight's worse than 3. You don't get anything out of 8. You got the middle of the draft. That's what you get out of 8 wins.
Yeah. I mean, the Jets have they have Miami at home next week. Miami is, of course, making headlines as the most incompetent team in the NFL this week. Then they have at Green Bay and at Denver. So their schedule isn't really getting any easier just yet.
They have to win this game against Miami.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, that's who knows what's going to happen with Green Bay and London next week, but I don't know. At Denver, you might have a shot. You know, I mean, Russell Wilson is still struggling right now to get acclimated. So maybe you can
and
still work that
Williams
window.
went down. Sorry, I said Javonte Williams went down, which I think is really going to hurt them long term.
Yeah, hurts my fantasy team too.
Yeah, how is your / my fantasy team doing?
Not too great lately because I forgot about the London game, so I wasted a flex spot because Alvin Kamara was out. It was a late scratch.
Okay, so it's not entirely my fault if the team sucks here. Okay, in this case here, I got to
okay.
do his draft
The last 2 weeks were rough.
You know, I was asked to do his draft for him, so I kind of take a personal interest in this because the whole thing was to get you out of the cellar, being a cellar dweller from last year. So if you fail, if you basically stay stuck at the bottom, it's 100% my fault because I picked your guys for you. But anyway, yeah, like I said, it's leave me posted on that because I'm still curious. We got to go back to the other New York team for a second because holy crap on a stick, you know, we have a team here that. There we go. The Giants are 3-1. What kind of fresh hell is this? You know, it's this. The Giants and the Jets have 5 wins combined this season. Since 2017, they were the team. They were the worst teams in the NFL from 2017 to last year. And suddenly, you know what? You got a 3-1 team. You got a 2-2 team. The Giants are winning ugly. They are not winning pretty. You know, these are low-scoring affairs. The defense is holding. Saquon's.
It doesn't get much uglier than yesterday.
What's that?
It doesn't get much uglier than yesterday's game, but they got it done. Even with Saquon having to fill in his Wildcat quarterback at the end of the game. You
know, and that's like there's some concerns there. I mean, he has already admitted that he is seeing his old self back. He's like, this is the Saquon I used to be, using himself in the third person. Daniel Jones went down. He scored 2 rushing touchdowns. So from a fantasy perspective, if you had him, it's good numbers on that. There is some concerns. He's iffy supposedly next week for London, but otherwise Tyrod Taylor will be able to handle it. I don't know how well he does with that offense. It's not something he is as acclimated with yet. But irrespective, the team is 3-1. You know, I mean, the NFC East is the only division right now that has 3 teams with a winning record right now, and that's kind of a big deal. They're 11-5 overall as a division goes, and the only division out there that has a perfect 4-0 record against the opposing conference. So there's a lot of respect to be had with the NFC East there, and the Giants. Maybe they can go 10-7, maybe. You know, I'll take it.
The Giants will go, for better or for worse, as far as Barkley's legs will carry them. If he can be because I think when he's healthy, he is as good a running back as King Henry, and has the ability to transform your offense to be a running offense in today's NFL, which is a huge advantage, because if you can actually be a running offense, none of the defenses are designed to stop you, right? So you get to play to what nobody else is doing. And he is kind of that beast mode type of guy if he doesn't get hurt. So, yeah, I think Tyrod Taylor can hand the ball off to him as well as Daniel Jones can, and make the few passes that need to be made to the barely existing wide receiver crew. I think the Giants are going to be a team to contend with because of those giant thighs and quads you have up on screen right now.
Tyrod Taylor's status is going to be interesting to see, especially coming off of concussion protocol and a transatlantic flight. I guess Davis Webb will be making the trip with them. The Giants haven't really made any announcements yet as far as the status of either quarterback, so we will see what happens with that.
They wouldn't necessarily, though.
Yeah, Packers in London, and then Baltimore at home the week after. I guess they don't give London teams bye weeks after that trip anymore. That used to be a regular thing, but I guess not anymore.
In this case, I mean, it's a Sunday to Sunday, so it's not that bad. It's not terrible. You know, it's a 9:30 on time start here over here. So the game will be over in 12:30, so about 6 o'clock over there. You can fly out the next day and still land, because remember, you got time zone going back. So if you leave at, say, 9 o'clock in the morning over there, you can land over here probably like 10 or 11 o'clock, and you can still more or less get your day back on schedule again. So it's not that tough. But 3-1, yeah, they would make some massive waves if they can somehow figure out a way to beat Green Bay. I don't think they beat Baltimore on this. I don't believe they're strong enough for that. But this is a little bit of a punctured roster when it comes to the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
I think
at Jacksonville too after that Baltimore game.
Yeah, I would say it's plausible. Right now, last I saw, the Giants are the underdog by 7.5 points, which is a big loss on that. But who knows? Like I said, it's a weird thing right now. Tyrod Taylor, if he's ready. I mean, Davis Webb, we'll have to see what happens there. Do you re-sign Jake Fromm? I don't know. I mean, the best marketing play the Giants had last year was basically you got Jake from State Farm. And that's like the only good redeeming value the Giants had last year. But Daniel Jones is iffy. Obviously, the legs are his biggest thing. If the ankle's bulky, that is going to hurt him big time. It's going to hurt the Giants' offense. And there's no way they can sign somebody fast enough to replace him.
Is that a high ankle sprain that Jones has? I didn't see the exact,
I don't remember offhand. It's definitely a sprain, but I think it's lower. He's iffy. So if it's a high ankle,
if it's a regular lower ankle sprain, then he might be able to come back quickly. But if it's a high ankle sprain like Matt Jones has, then he's out for a month.
Yeah, no bone damage from what I've read on that ankle sprain.
And in this case, like I said, the only problem is it's going to actually hurt the speed that he has, and it's going to actually put a greater workload and expectation on Saquon if Daniel Jones isn't there to offset the unexpected. I mean, sure. Who knows?
Absolutely. I mean, can they hand the ball off enough time? It still is. It's not even the quarterback, because we've been talking about weapons. It is just nothing for them to throw to. No one's really panned out.
Giants win ugly is how they operate.
That's and Green Bay does not look good right now. And they just don't. I mean, they won, but they just don't look good.
So, if you would ask anybody right there who has more points after 4 games, the Giants or the Packers, the Giants actually do.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that one?
And the Lions are outscoring both of them.
Well,
That's
Jared
what
Goff is
everybody-
carrying fantasy football teams all over the country. Who knew?
Ooh. Their defense sucks grass, but yeah, that offense, my God, 140 points after 4 games.
It's like they had one bad year, and now it's like, oh look, it's the same thing they used to have with Stafford. It's just can score, and then you watch the other team score more.
Well, that's what ends up happening. You get these shootouts that are going on. But I think Goff also had a massive transition here last year. I don't think he was ready for that trade. I don't think he was prepared for it. And last year was a very tough year for him. I think that way. Was it LaShawn McCoy? I think had the same issue when he was traded from Philly to the Bills. He really had a hard time adjusting for a while because he was just shocked by the trade.
Right.
So and also with Barkley, usually coming off an ACL injury, they're not quite right the first year back, especially for a running back. It's usually how they make the leap the second year back. It's not until the second year back that they get back to their old selves, if they do at all. And it looks like so far so good that Saquon is back to being his old self.
We'll see what happens. He's spent more time, I think, on the injured list than he has actually had played in the last 2 or 3 years. So it'll be curious to see. But yeah, that offense, like you said, is going to be based on what he can do. His numbers are phenomenal numbers, and they are going as far as he can because otherwise, that was nice while it lasted. All right. So speaking of New York, I was going to say, the messages came in, pivot to baseball. I was actually, that was literally my transition. Let's talk a little baseball for a second right now. Aaron Judge is far and away the greatest, walk on base, highest on base percentage of anyone who does not have to take the bat off of his shoulder in Major League Baseball right now. I think, what was it, yesterday's game? He drew 4 walks and only had 3 pitches that were hittable. Nobody wants to give up 62. Nobody wants to be Steve Traxel pitching to Mark McGwire for 62.
All right. So Scott, don't answer this question because I have a different opinion about this, and Scott and I talked about it before you got on with us pre-show, JD. So I will ask you. Scott thought about it for a while and then didn't even take a guess. Prior to Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire's historic year, who was the National League home run lead, single season home run leader?
I just read this recently. I think it was Hack Wilson.
You are correct.
Nicely done. I got it wrong.
Nicely done.
I only know about that because I read it in an article last week. Talking about the integrity of the home run record and the AL versus NL distinction.
Okay, because to me, this AL NL thing, this is some made up stuff that they're doing with Judge. Like, he's having a great year, and as I was talking, I would fight for Judge over Ohtani for the MVP. And as a single season compared to his peers in any single year, I could argue that this is the greatest single season compared to your peers of ever. But the AL home run record is Bupkis. Who cares? He wears it. Like, that's such a fake thing because they want to not celebrate the steroid guys. And anyone who's really willing to bet their reputation that a guy who looks like that is natty is a better man than me. I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying when somebody does something that nobody else ever has, and you're willing to go out there and think, he's natural. You're braver than me. That's all. You're way braver than me.
The American League home run record is a talking point just because they just don't want to. They don't want to say non-steroids on the air. MLB is just trying to make you forget that even happens by especially with the Hall of Fame voting and all. Even though everybody was complicit in it, from the commissioner on down. So the talking about the American League home run record is their way of saying it, but not saying it with a wink and a nod. So so yes, distinction between leagues doesn't matter. The thing that is more impressive that I've seen cited, and I agree, is the distance between Judge at 61 and Kyle Schwarber with 42.
Yep.
Who is second in the majors in home runs. He has almost 50% more than the second place home run hitter. That's Babe Ruth type ridiculous discrepancy.
My thing is this: if he did steroids, it wouldn't surprise me. If he did not do steroids, it also would not surprise me. This is, you don't basically, I mean, the argument is you can't, you take steroids, you can't hit, it doesn't teach you how to hit a ball. Yeah, if you know how to hit a ball, you hit it further. Aaron Judge, though, is 6'7" and 282. He is already built to be able to hit the long ball. That is what he's designed for. Giancarlo Stanton is 6'6", like 240 or something like that. These guys are naturally built, and as a result, can hit the ball further. I would almost wonder in this particular case if Aaron Judge, I would lean to believe that he does not, personally. I know you might see differently. That's okay. I would lean towards not in this case because I wonder how much wholesale damage steroids would do to somebody of already that size. Because if you're 6'6" like that, this is not like Sean Bradley, who was like 7'6" and like 109 pounds. This is a bulked dude from the onset. And he doesn't have the face necessarily for steroids. If you saw, there's videos out there, time-lapse videos of like Barry Bonds when he was with Pittsburgh and then with San Francisco. And you see his face just expand outward. You're not really seeing that so much with Aaron Judge. And obviously there's certain things, the back knee, the foot size and everything. But I would lean towards no, because I almost wonder how much wholesale damage that would do to you if you started taking them and you're already that big.
So
his body's already going to fall apart. Whatever team signs him to this $300, $400 million ridiculous contract, probably record breaking, that he's going to get from.
So
he's going to fall apart with that body type. Steroids or not.
Just to defend myself, I am not accusing him of being on steroids. I am saying it takes a brave man to see somebody do something in sports that hasn't been done before and take the non-steroid stance. That's all I'm saying. I'm not making a stance,
which I can respect that.
That is, yes, thank you. Okay. So those people who want to do the story as JD described, as we're saying AL because we're saying non-steroids, I think you're taking a real chance. I'm not going to argue the physiology of steroids, non-steroids. I've seen guys who are on steroids who make their careers out of literally talking about it, who are bodybuilders, and they'll point to actors and actresses and they'll be like, that guy's on, and I'm like, really, that guy? And they'll be like, yeah, you're never going to look like that guy unless you do steroids like me, and that guy does. So the physiology of it, I'm not going to try to truly understand. So that's not where I'm coming from. It's the fact that he has 62 and Schwarber has 40. It's like he's having unbelievable production that we haven't seen. Now, the one thing I will say that I do appreciate about his record, which Bonds' record shows, is he's got people hitting behind him. Even when Rizzo's had hot streaks behind him, he's in the lineup with Stanton. And it wasn't like Bonds where nobody was in the lineup with him. And now nobody's pitching to him at all because Rizzo stopped hitting. So they're like, what? Not going to pitch to him. I think it's more about not pitching to him than for winning's sake than not being the guy who gives up 63, 62, because I don't think it's a record that counts.
Also, it's worth noting that the last few teams that the Yankees have played were division rivals and teams that were looking for playoff positions. There's no way the Red Sox were letting it happen on their watch. Nope. So they were not going to pitch to him. Toronto and Baltimore, up until 2 days ago, were playing for positioning or trying to make a last gasp run at the playoffs. And even after Baltimore was eliminated, they still don't want to be the ones to do it. Texas, on the other hand, is playing for zilch. So I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't get it organically, let's say, that a Texas September call-up pitcher will groove one and just to let Judge have it.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't think anybody wants to be, in this case here, this is the series finale for Texas. I don't know how they feel about letting Aaron Judge break the record in their park in the last series that they've got for the year. I'm not surprised by the walks. Like I said, I don't think anybody wants to be Steve Traxel.
And my opinion is they're not going to be Steve Traxler. Like, that's my biggest debate with you, Scott, is that it's still just the American League single season home run record. And as long as I'm on this planet and I have a breath about it, it's a meaningless record. When someone says to me, Aaron, I'm going to be like, yeah, but did you see what Bonds did in 2007? Because that's the whole. Well, it's in the records.
Here's the one difference, though.
matters.
This is the funny thing. This is where I think 98 and this year are different from 2007. In 98, you had 37 years between Maris and McGuire. Right now, 61 years on the AL side of it, between 61 and obviously now. When you went from McGuire to Bonds, you didn't have those decades. You didn't have that mystique build up around the number.
Mhm.
So 73 didn't mean as much because 70 had just happened. I think when you need time for mystique, and in this case, you see Roger Maris's, son coming out, Aaron Judge's mom comes out, and they're side by side. And Michael Kay had a great line about that. Basically, the son of the previous record holder, is hugging the mother of the current one, or something along those lines. It was really, really impressive that way.
The symmetry of the numbers, the 61, and 61 years later, Maris wore 9, Judge wore 99. There's a whole bunch of them, which are pretty cool coincidences like that.
It's almost like the Kennedy Lincoln thing,
same kind of thing.
But to me, it all goes back to what JD said. This is just a wink and a nod to it not being steroid era. And as far as I'm concerned, that's the baseball I grew up with, and that's the record. The other thing is, again, I would like to say I will fight anyone verbally if they take this Shohei Ohtani MVP over Judge. What he's doing this year, phenomenal. Best season I know of compared to your peers any single season that I'm aware of.
So give him the Cy Young because he's a better pitcher than he was last year.
Yes, yeah, whatever you want for
Ohtani
Shohei.
deserves Cy Young, but Judge deserves the MVP.
So it's most valuable player to your team. Aaron Judge, you pull him out of the lineup, the Yankees struggle. You pull Ohtani out of that lineup, the Angels still suck.
The other knock, if you will, I would put on Judge. And this is just like Bonds was a product of his time. Judge is a product of this time. So I went to see where did Judge stand. Judge is hitting, compared to that 2007 season, but Judge strikes out a lot. I mean, a lot. Now nobody cares about striking out anymore.
Everybody strikes out a lot. That's the game now.
That's the game now. So we would expect these home run numbers to increase a little bit because we're allowed to just swing away. Nobody's, the game has changed to really give you that chance to chase these numbers. Again, it's not Judge's fault. He is the perfect guy for this game the way it is now. But this is the same game that people say needs to be changed and improved. So it's interesting to me that the same kind of people who are celebrating Judge it's not a steroid thing. Maybe in some cases, the same type of people going, the game has changed. It's not as good as it used to be. Why are we, we got to ban the shift. They're the same people, but Judge plays right into that group.
We need the bases to be bigger.
Right, we need the bases to be bigger. But Judge is doing it the right way.
And also the, with steroids and with how the game has changed and all, the 98 chase was headline news, every week for the whole summer. Now it's overshadowed by it's only real hardcore baseball enthusiasts and Yankee fans who are even talking about this. The general sports public, it's still being drowned out by the NFL. I mean, yes, it's there, but it's not the top headline every day. Like
interrupted other sports. I was watching a close college football game this weekend, and they interrupted it to do side by side and played the audio.
Been a lot of complaints about that. They did that with Bonds.
They did it with Bonds, but that was and this is where my ire comes from, is that it is not being just the Yankee thing, because the Yankee fans should celebrate it. It's also the Yankee single season record. But I don't need to have my college. If I'm a college football fan, if I wanted to watch the baseball game, I'd watch the baseball game. Even if it's a preseason, like other things are being interrupted for this non-record record. That's my.
Well, there was a question that actually came up on Twitter. I forget what network it was, but they asked the network directly. It's like, "Are you going to cut away for Aaron Judge?" And the response back was gold. He's like, "No, we are not going to cut away so some chicken can throw 4 pitches out of the strike zone."
Yes, I didn't see that. Yeah, right.
And it was just like, okay, well, that certainly puts a damper in that one. That kills that one right there. But it's like I said, it's at this point, it was a novelty early on, but now that it's just been walk after walk after walk, I think people have lost interest and moved on. It's again, they're like, okay, I'll go on YouTube and I'll watch it when it happens. But the energy and the passion from it is gone because at this point, it's been dragging on so long, people are bored. It's like a TV show that's like 7 seasons longer than it should.
It kind of reminds me of how in Japanese baseball, Sadaharu Oh has the career home run record, and he had the single season home run record for a long time, from the 60s. And it was only recently broken within the past 10 years or so. But whenever anybody would get close, nobody would pitch them the rest of the season, which, interestingly enough, Sadaharu Oh himself was part of that manipulation, if you will, because he was an opposing manager when players were threatening his record. So because he was so revered, everybody else kind of deferred to him. It is how everybody's walking Judge and nobody wants to pitch to him. It is reminiscent of that, where just for whatever reason they just don't want to be the one to give it up. So nobody has the stones to actually try and throw to him.
Yeah, and that's where I think it's going to be ultimately very disappointing. He'll end with 61. I threw that poll up on Twitter, I guess it was like a week ago. Where does he land? 60, 61, or above? And most people were like, he'll hit one more, hit 61, and then just stop. They saw the writing on the wall like a week before all this happened. And now you're just seeing boredom. Texas has nothing to play for right now. The Yankees have really nothing to play for right now. The only thing that makes any interest in this whatsoever is Aaron Judge. Will he, won't he? And it's like, okay. It's like, all right, well, Monday Night Football is on. What are people going to be watching on Monday? Are they going to be watching Aaron Judge? Are they going to watch Monday Night Football? With or without, Buck.
Aside from Judge, the only real loose end as far as finishing up the baseball season was just resolved with the Mets getting stomped in Atlanta over the weekend. So everything else is,
sorry for your losses.
Yeah. So typical Mets. I've seen a lot of stuff. They didn't really choke because the Braves were just better. And while that is true, maybe the Mets shouldn't have gotten swept at home by the Cubs, or should have actually beaten up some of the bad teams that they were playing all month. They never should have been in this position, because every time the Mets were in this position,
big was that? I mean, listen, they're still mathematically in it, but
I will say this: this is not as heartbreaking, maybe because there's a wild card available, as when the Phillies caught them. Like when the Phillies caught them, was just
it's different. So it's not completely missing the playoffs. It's not even 1985, where it was a situation just like this, where they had a late September series against the Cardinals. The Cardinals won that series and decided the division. So the Cardinals made the playoffs, winning the NL East with 101 victories, and the Mets went home with 98 victories. It isn't like that because of the expanded playoffs now, but it's still, they were up 10.5 games. Yes, the only reason they were up 10.5 games was because Atlanta didn't wake up until June. Granted, and they are the defending World Series champions, so it is different than that, but it is still disappointing where they only needed 1 game and they got 0. It's all of Steve Cohen's bottomless pit of money still doesn't wipe that Mets stink off for that.
Well, here's the
yes, they can go in the playoffs, but the way they've been playing, the fact that they can't hit, I don't see them going far. All for the right. And if they do beat San Diego or Philly, whoever they play in the wild card round, they're just going to get obliterated by the Dodgers in the division round anyway, because the Dodgers are running over everybody.
They've gone toe-to-toe with the Dodgers, okay. I mean, here's the question. If they bottom out and they say, God help them, they lose in the wild card in this case, how much money does Steve Cohen drop next year?
Ask Aaron
Might
Judge.
find
He'll
Judge.
tell you.
What's
Aaron
that?
Judge will tell you. Aaron Judge will tell you. Aaron Judge will
Yeah.
tell you exactly.
I don't know if
how
Judge
much
will go there, but I mean, my God, you think about what Steve Cohen is the new George Steinbrenner. If Steinbrenner actually had a loss like that, not only would heads 100% roll, but also he would be opening up the purse strings and he would land every hitter, every pitcher, whatever he can do.
So
it's
if
like
if it was
like
Steinbrenner, if it was Steinbrenner, where would Judge be next year?
Oh no, he would be with New York.
He would be if Steinbrenner owned the Mets, Judge would be a Met next year. So if Cohen wants to be Steinbrenner, then he's going to pay Judge an extra $20 million a year because he can. It's just that simple. Now, by the way, one other thing I wanted to say about the Yankees and Aaron Judge is, so I just went on a trip. I was in Paris.
Nice.
And I bring this up because there's zero reason in the world that the Yankees cannot afford whatever Aaron Judge asks for. I know, Scott, you like to say, well, this contract's going to be an albatross 10 years down the line.
And it will be.
When I was in Paris, there were 2 American brands that could compete in the fashion world. One was Ralph Lauren, and they are forcing their way into Paris. And my wife's a big fashionista, and the story about how they're trying to do that is well known for those people into fashion. And the New York Yankees, the beautiful people wearing brands that you and I haven't even heard of, like the Bugattis of handbags and purses and pants, are wearing New York Yankee baseball caps, which means that they can sell that symbol for whatever they want to whomever they want and pay for Judge in a week.
Oh yeah, no, they could, but like I said, they're more frugal than their dad was.
They could. They just don't want to. That's the difference. Hal just doesn't want to.
Well,
what did Brandon call them? A law firm with a baseball team earlier this year?
Yeah. It hurts me as a non-Yankee fan that they're not that anymore.
The Yankees were third highest in attendance this year. Number two, basically, the Dodgers were number 1 in attendance this year. The Yankees were number 3. Do you know who number 2 was this year?
Houston?
Mets.
Nope. And keep in mind, Braves were 4th by
Dodgers.
a hair. Nope. No, Dodgers are 1st. St. Louis.
Right.
The Cardinals were number 2.
St. Louis is a model of consistency, and it's a Cardinals town, has been forever.
But what's funny is actually it's a relatively small population over there by comparison to, like, say, New York or LA.
But it's the only thing for
but that travel all the way down from Iowa and Oklahoma and all those
Arkansas, Tennessee, like you just go into the, and it's like there's the arch. Who cares? We're going to the stadium. Like it's
I mean, to be fair, the AAA team for the Cardinals is in Memphis, so they have some familiarity there. But yeah, credit to the Cardinals on that. They're number 2, and that's kind of cool to see. But one of the things this is going to parlay into the soccer conversation. And the last thing probably for the night is the Yankees, I think, are personally rooting for NYCFC to fail. I've been thinking about this a little bit lately, and I've been talking to some of the fans on this. The Yankees right now were shown up heavily when NYCFC won the MLS title last year. If you go to Yankee Stadium, the banner for NYCFC's championship is proudly displayed in a little tiny corner, and it's about that big. Basically, my hands are it is literally a 6 to 7 foot, I don't know, bat towel. And I think in a lot of ways, NYCFC is a team right now that, despite being a reigning champion, is a team that the Yankees are rooting to fail, because every time NYCFC has success, it points a finger at the Yankees and the fact that they haven't been to the World Series since 2009.
I think that the NYCFC is a rounding error to the Yankees. Let's be real here. Now that the Yankees ownership has also bought a piece of AC Milan, NYCFC isn't even the most important soccer team in the Yankee Empire. and the group that owns Manchester City and multiple other soccer teams is just a giant conglomerate. And NYCFC is maybe sixth or seventh out of I think 10 or so teams that group owns throughout the world. So they can't even get home games. They played their home game at Red Bull this weekend, right?
I know, I was there in the rain, by the way. It was a really crappy experience. They won 2-1, credit to her. But I had a conversation with a guy named Trey Fillmore, who's a writer for the team for a bunch of years. And they are poised to actually host a playoff game at home. Top four, basically 2 through 4 actually get in the first round home field, and then 5, 6, and 7 have to play them. It is mathematically possible that they would have to play at their junior league's stadium, because the Yankees are in the playoffs, which means Yankee Stadium is out. The Mets will be in the playoffs, which means Citi Field is out. Red Bulls are going to be in the playoffs and may host the first round at home, which means Red Bull Arena could be out, which means Belson Stadium, a.k.a. St. John's University, where NYCFC 2, their developmental team, might actually, in fact, be the home playoff location for the reigning MLS champions.
And one of my favorite facts on that is that Delson Stadium is literally built on top of a parking deck in Queens.
It is also true, yes. And I mean, they had to play U.S. Open games at Belson Stadium because of this whole scheduling snafu. But it is actually, my God, mathematically possible that the reigning MLS champion may have to play it in a college park, a college pitch, and it's like, oh my God. I mean, even right now, the game yesterday was on an app, which barely ever works. You go on that subreddit, and the Yes app, so many complaints about the fact that the app isn't working, the app isn't failing. I was at the stadium yesterday. I tried to log into the app. I couldn't do it. So I could not get the broadcast that they are broadcasting for this game, which adds to my fuel right down there that maybe the Yankees are kind of looking to basically push out NYCFC a little bit and try and save face as much as possible. I wonder if it's a little bit of a conspiracy. I'm not sure.
I wouldn't say conspiracy, but I will say this. The Yankees as an organization, if they are not winning, yes, I think they are against the NYCFC. They're against the Mets. They're against the Giants. They're against the Jets. They're against the Knicks. They're against the Nets. They're against, they want to be the number one team in the biggest market in the country. And if they are not happy. And I do agree with you that NYCFC winning was a little kick. Now, if the Yankees go on to win the World Series this year, they'll probably find a way to, at that point, congratulate NYCFC, because as JD said, it's just a rounding error. So, hey, yes, we won. And basically in the same year as way to go. New York is a city of champs, right? Because they can. But not otherwise. No, I agree with you. I'm not saying they would intentionally make their app not work, because that could affect other things on their app.
It's a crap app. It really is.
Right. And they're like, well, just put the game on the crap app. Yeah, sure.
Just wait for Apple TV next year.
That's going to be a big difference there. I'm curious to see how that's going to play out, and I'm pretty sure that's going to resolve a lot of the issues in this case, because they see how big.
It'll resolve a lot of the issues. It's what. Go ahead.
I have a question. I heard something. I didn't follow up with this person, so I didn't get to fully understand it. It was suggested to me that in streaming services, when you are watching a game on streaming services, you have options of audios that you can take the home team or the away team's radio and stream it through. Is that true?
I've seen that option for when I've watched some games on the ESPN app on my phone.
Okay.
Because there was a few that it did give a choice for whether you wanted home team or away team audio. They had 3 choices. They had home team, away team, or Espanol.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, some of them do that. By the way, if you ever get the chance, if you get that option for football, find German. German NFL is hilarious. Remember Andres Cantor, the guy that basically made goal famous, and that energy and that passion? Germans broadcasting the NFL. Just look it up on YouTube. It's one of the funniest things you're going to find out there. I don't know if they're all drunk right off the bat, but they sure as hell seem like it. And it's glorious. Just watch it. Anyway,
I always wondered if Gary, Keith, and Ron were drunk, because you need to be to watch 162 Mets games a year normally. You know,
Dude,
I was thinking like Major League, where they're just passing a bottle of Jack Daniels between them.
Dude, Gary's out for the year. He injured himself falling off a step.
See if hope he's back for Seton Hall basketball starting up next month.
Dude, apparently Gary Cohen's huge into that. He does the Mets game for like the income, and he likes the environment. But apparently his passion is Seton Hall.
Yes, I've heard him say that. He was on. I heard him on a podcast with Matt Loughlin earlier this year, where he said that the Mets were a job, but Seton Hall basketball was his passion.
That's pretty cool.
And that was incredible to hear. And I actually had lunch with years ago with Gary Cohen, where we both happened to be working the same game when I was a student at SOU, working a Seton Hall St. John's game at the Garden. So we ended up eating. We ended up at the same lunch table with them, while my partner with SOU was trying to completely restrain himself from completely geeking out.
It's like, oh my god.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. You got to play it cool.
He is the consummate professional. He's one of the best in the business. And yes, I'm biased as a Mets fan, but I think that they're the best home team announcing group in all of baseball.
I think a lot of people agree with you, though. I think just that tandem is unique in the way that they just roll with it. Even with, add Gelbs into that, or Todd Zeal as necessary. That whole group of dynamic, especially over that long, I think is just a really good connection. Truth is, I would rather listen to them than Yankee games, than listen to Michael Kay, David Cohn, and Paul O'Neill. The way Gary, Keith, and Ron just roll, it's just, I don't know, it's like three dudes hanging out on a couch. And that's what I like about it. So, all right. We may as well wrap this up. I'm starting to get hungry as heck right now. You guys have anything else? You guys good?
No, I was going to say, I'm so happy to be back, and thank you. Thank you for letting me come back.
We're going to figure this out. We're going to make this work here. So,
decision day in MLS on Sunday. The Union still need a point to clinch first in the East.
Yes,
and one first round bye.
And they came from behind to beat Orlando yesterday, which if they lost to Orlando, they could very easily have been playing on the road for that playoff game. So yesterday was a massive, massive win. And frankly, a really good turnout, despite the fact that it was rain. NFL Sunday, the Mets were playing, the Yankees were playing, and it was coming out to New Jersey for it, which, by the way, head coach Nick Cushing apparently was not a fan of the pizza they had afterwards, because it really looks like a crap Papa John's pizza. Like that low-end stuff there, Domino's. And like, come on, this is Jersey. You got to give us some better pizza here. So anyway, when a
British guy is making fun of your pizza, that really is sad.
Oh, really? Yeah, he was walking by. We're talking about it. It's like, you think after a win they'd give us better pizza. It did not look good, man. It looked like tomato cheese bread. It looked like the kind of pizza you get in Florida. So anyway, I'm going to get off my rant on that one. Obi, thank you very much, man. I appreciate it. It was great to have you back. I missed you, dude. I really did. So we're going to keep with Mondays on this. We're going to keep rolling with that. So we keep you going. JD, thank you. I know you got to bail, but thanks as always. I appreciate it. And like I said, Tales from the Film Set coming up. We're going to be talking a little Dragon Ball. We're going to be talking a few other things in there because of the fact that a lot of the fan base now is apparently heavy on Dragon Ball. We're probably going to be catering a little bit to what the fans want on that side of it. Anyway, I'm Scott. Thanks as always for tuning in. Appreciate it. You guys are awesome.